Hello buddy, Crow back again, and we're talking more about Zaccaria Pinball here, more specifically the group of tables in the awards section. Now I've talked about pretty much everything I could possibly talk about in Zaccaria Pinball, all the solid state tables, the EM tables, the remake tables, all the current deluxe tables, and I did make a separate video on all the retro tables all at once. I've even talked about like the campaign mode, the story mode, the zombie invasion mode, but I've not once discussed anything about these award tables aside from that one video I made on Treasure, which I will explain why I did that if you haven't seen that. But you may be wondering, if you've played Zaccaria Pinball, you've seen this category award and was wondering, where did these tables come from? Why do I have to unlock them? Yes, these tables can be unlocked through normal play, but you could also buy a bundle, like very, very cheaply, or a package that bundles all of these tables together. And that's pretty much how I got these tables. I would have liked to unlock these one at a time, but when I bought the Platinum bundle that was on Steam, just the award tables were just included as part of that. But if you didn't buy these award tables, you could unlock them, usually, at least on Steam anyway, they get unlocked by the number of achievements you get in the game overall. So I don't really know, let's just say 50 achievements gives you the first table, 100 achievements gives you the second table. The only exception to that is the table Treasure, which you have to finish campaign mode to unlock. And in fact, you can't even buy Treasure. It's not included in that award pack, at least as of to date. They may change that in the future where you could purchase that as well. But I made a completely separate video on Treasure, but I'll still talk about it here just a little bit. But all these tables really have nothing to do with Zaccaria Pinball at all. They are not based on real tables. They are not reimaginings of Zaccaria Pinball tables. In fact, what they are from is Magic Pixel's previous game or games that they've worked on, one of which I know for sure, and I don't know if all these tables came from this game, but there was a game on iOS called Age of Pinball, and some, if not all of these tables were from that game. In fact, there were more tables that were in Age of Pinballs that are not in Zaccaria Pinball, and they may be added in the future, and if they are, I'll make a separate video on those tables. But pretty much all these tables exist in one form or another in another game, and they've just kind of ported them over to Zaccaria Pinball. So I think that's enough of an intro. We're going to just start talking just a little bit about each table, move on. There's really not much to talk about, which is why I'm grouping them all together in one video. And yeah, let's get going and get started with The Mummy. So this is The Mummy, and the first thing you'll notice about all of these award tables is that they all sound and feel kind of like solid state machines. The odd thing about that is that the score is on reels, like in an EM machine. So there's a weird mixture of things going on here. And in fact, some of these tables even have multi-ball, like The Mummy does have multi-ball if you do knock down all those targets at the top. I think that's how I got it. And just another kind of auto launches onto the table kind of took me by surprise when that first happened to me, because you just wouldn't expect that kind of thing to happen in a table like this. But I found this table to be pretty fun. You got the two upper flippers and the two lower flippers, and it's just shooting for the targets. The only thing that can get frustrating about this table is it does seem to drain on the out lanes fairly frequently, but if you can somehow manage to avoid that, this table's not too bad. Next up, we have Aliens. This is a table that's actually blocked off a lot of the play area with just nothing. You launch the ball, it shoots around. It usually misses that top bumper unless you launch it very carefully. Bounce around the pop bumpers. I think the idea is that when it pops around the pop bumpers, it's supposed to hit those standing targets, which is an interesting concept. It's not too bad. There's also the bluish-green target that every time you hit it spells the word zap to give you some extra points. I'm not sure if there is multi-ball in this table or not. I didn't run across it. But while I was playing this table, I just happened to notice that while I had it on the right flipper, I'd go for that target to spell zap. If I had it on the right flipper, I'd try to shoot it up and around and bounce it around in the pop bumpers. And again, like The Mummy, the ball does like to head for the out lanes. So again, not bad. I think it's slightly worse than The Mummy, but again, not really that bad. All right, here we have Hippie, which is a table I kind of like, but I think has some pretty glaring flaws. The first of which is that left orbit that kind of passes by that upper flipper, and it's supposed to I presumably go and let the ball drop back through the YAH rollovers, or is that... No, you know what? I just realized that's a VAN. I guess I need an eye test. The VAN rollovers. But instead, most of the time when you hit it, the force is so much that it'll bounce back and just come right back the other way. And the other kind of flaw are those flower targets. I know what they were trying to do there, but I feel like a lot of times when I go for those targets, the ball just kind of goes crazy afterward. And when it goes crazy, it just loves to go out those out lanes. So pretty much whenever I was playing this table, I was kind of shooting it in that lane that's just to the right of the left orbit that kind of feeds through to the pop bumpers. And that's pretty much the only thing I would shoot for, kind of limiting the table somewhat. So, it's not terrible, but it's just, I don't know, it could be better. It seems like it needs a little bit more work. And this is FireFighter, another table that I actually kind of like with the same flaw that I saw in Hippie, wherein this time it's a right orbit, and when you do hit that, instead of falling into the pop bumper area, it will most likely just bounce back the same way, making that shot kind of pointless. But what I do like about this table is that row of drop down targets, and when you do complete that, you get multi-ball instantly. So I actually really like that feature of this table, which makes this one actually one of my favorites, despite that flaw with the right orbit. Again, just a little bit of tweaking, and this could have been really good. This is Speed King. This one's got no severe flaws that I could recall, but it does have sort of an unusual layout. There is no right out lane. Instead, what we get is one lane separated by two pop bumpers, and that is certainly original. You do have a row of drop targets that you could hit pretty safely, and a good shot that'll take it up to the upper pop bumpers. This one isn't bad, but again, it's kind of not memorable to me. There's something about it that doesn't make me want to come back to this one, even though I don't have any issues with it. Perhaps it's just the unorthodox layout, which only leaves between the flippers and the left out lane, which is actually rare for the ball to go out of to leave. So this table may just be a little bit easier than the other ones, and perhaps that's the reason why I'm not terribly interested in it. And this is Beastmaster. And when I was starting to play this table, I was thinking to myself, this seems pretty familiar, and then I realized this is exactly the same table layout as Gottlieb's Genie, except it's not a wide body, so everything is a little bit more cramped. And I'm not a huge fan of Genie. There is one thing about Genie I do not like, and that is the left out lane, or rather you have the 4 rollovers and then a pop bumper, and then basically it feeds down to a lane, and it just kind of seems completely random as to whether or not the ball's gonna drain or not. And here the table is a lot narrower, so there's less room to kind of nudge the table to try to get the ball not to drain. But yeah, this is just a complete rip-off of Genie otherwise. So again, it's not a bad table, I just don't like the whole random nature of the left out lane. And that's really all I gotta say about this one. And this is Voyager through time and space, and I actually quite like this table a lot. It's a big, wide open area in the middle, and basically you're just shooting for the 4 targets to score a bunch of points. I think you do get points too for hitting those flashing rollovers, but that's something I actually didn't manage to do in one game, but I just really like the simple, okay, you're on the left flipper, let's shoot for one of these right side targets. You're on the right flipper, let's shoot for one of these left side targets, and that's basically all the table is. And you could get some extra points for hitting those rollovers on the side, hitting the rollovers at the top of the table if you can get it back up there in the pop bumper area. Just a clean and simple table, and that's all these tables I feel really need to be. And this is Treasure, and I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about this one because I've already made a complete video on this one separately for 2 reasons. 1. This is the only table in the awards table group that you can't buy as of this date. That may change in the future, but as of right now, you can't buy this table. You have to earn it by completing the campaign mode. And the second thing is there's no flippers on this table. This table is all about the flipper plunge and nudging. Go for the flashing holes to try to get yourself extra balls. Other than that, try and get the most number of points with the balls you have. That's it. Don't need to talk about it anymore. Let's move on. This is Wizard, and this table is actually really good. And starting with this table and the next two tables have this feature, this multi-ball feature, wherein there's a multi-ball target, and when you hit that target, a whole bunch of standing targets appear on the table, and when you hit one, you get multi-ball. But as you continue throughout the game, if you want multi-ball again, then you have to hit 2 targets, then 3 targets, then 4 targets just to get that multi-ball going again. And I really like that feature. Other than that, this table has a pretty good layout. The orbit on the left side does not like shoot back, although it does kind of shoot over the rollover targets leading to the pop bumpers, but I think that is by design. It is harder to get those rollovers than usual. The other unusual thing is the upper left flipper actually has a guardrail that prevents the ball from just falling on top of it. You have to feed it around to that flipper in order to hit that row of drop-down targets, and that can be pretty difficult. So I do like some of the challenging shots in this table. I like the multi-ball feature, and yeah, I really like this one. It's maybe one of the best award tables. And here we are with Zombie. I don't really even know where to start with this table. It does have the same feature as in Wizard, where you have the multi-ball light, and then you have to hit as many of the standing targets as you need in order to get multi-ball, depending on how many times you have multi-ball during that game. But it's a little bit harder to hit, and this table just doesn't flow that well, I feel. The big oddity on this table is right above the second right flipper is this guardrail thing that's kind of constantly spinning around, and it's pretty interesting, but I feel has a really low impact on the table itself. Really don't know what the purpose of it is, just to be unusual, but that's really the defining feature of the table, which isn't that great. And like I said, the table just doesn't flow that well, I feel. So it's one of the later tables you'll unlock, but I don't think it's worth it that much. And here we are at the 11th and final table in the awards table group. This is Caveman. This has the same feature as Wizard and Zombie in that you have the one multi-ball light. When you hit that, you get a bunch of targets that pop up, and you hit those for a multi-ball. But this multi-ball light is even harder to hit than the one in Zombie. But this table is a little bit less frustrating than Zombie, I feel, although it does have a little bit of frustrations because the table is broken out between a lower half and an upper half. And you will work a lot to try to get it to the upper half, but because of the layout, it could just fall right back down to the lower half. So a lot of times when you're playing this table, you're just working on getting it to that upper half just to hit that multi-ball light. But yeah, other than just that multi-ball feature, it seems like the main gimmick of this table is it just being broken up between the lower half and the upper half. And you'll spend most of the time just trying to get it to the upper half to hit those targets. And more importantly, the multi-ball light to start multi-ball, which is very hard to do. I mean, it has a little bit more flow to it than Zombie, but I still think of the last 3, Wizard is the best. All right, that's a look at the 11 tables that are currently in the awards section of Zaccaria Pinball. I may have to revisit this in the future because there are still more tables that Magic Pixel has done in the past for previous pinball games on iOS than they've released so far as award tables. So I've heard talks that there will be more award tables. But I felt now was a good time to make this video because it's like one of the last things I actually needed to do for Zaccaria Pinball to be complete until more tables get released. So this is just kind of my way of tying up loose ends with Zaccaria Pinball. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.